Hello, hello, happy Friday. Welcome to our Friday witchy live stream. Today we have a beautiful, juicy reading on how to trust again. And this was a request, and I'm going to say your name wrong, but Chamsi, I hope I said that right, said that she really liked this reading, and I just immediately connected to it, and I felt like that was such a good topic. And I feel like I'm supposed to share this, and Alex actually weirdly enough told me, he was like, I think you should kind of open up about this a little bit, because sometimes whenever I do a reading that I haven't done before, or it's a topic that I'm like, I'm kind of vaguely familiar with this, I just try to like look some things up a little bit. I do a little bit of research, but I do this as a part of my kind of regular practice anyways, because I wanted to make like a this kind of thing for this reading, because again, I haven't really done this reading before. So in doing that, I actually ended up learning a lot of stuff, and it reminded me of a thing that I kind of do on the regular, because some of you guys know that I'm a big advocate for like the morning pages from The Artist's Way. And the morning pages is where you just write stream of consciousness, 3 whole pages, and just like kind of get it all out. And what a lot of people notice when they do the morning pages is that there's certain times in your life where you literally cannot write enough pages. It just like really flows. And there's other times where that's not the case. Heather, thank you so much for the super chat. And also Anonymous, thank you so much for the super chat. But it just kind of like flows, and then other times it doesn't. And I started like whenever I went through times that it didn't, I started kind of going through my values list, because my therapist always has me like check in with my values and stuff. And I realized that as people, I think this might tie into the reading somehow, but a lot of times like we have the faintest idea of what a word means. Obviously we have like I'm able to use words and sentences kind of like meaning to it, but really getting to know like certain words and what the concepts that are behind them on a deep level actually is more involved than you might think. People are the same way. You might think you know a person, but then if you really go looking for something deeper, they can really shock you like with who they are. So I have this little booklet that sometimes I'll write like accountability or honesty or trust, and I'll look up on like Psychology Today, or I'll just look like what goes into trust, because we think trust is a singular concept, but what things actually mean trust, like what things added together equal trust, how do you build trust, how do you maintain trust. And I kind of ended up sort of doing that for this reading, and I think maybe some of you would like to do that the same. But I actually found a really good article, and it's on Helpline. I wish I would have wrote down the author, but if you look like Rebuilding Trust or something, there was this really amazing article that had so much information about it, and I learned a lot of things from that article. And I just wanted to open up a little bit about my process, just kind of behind the scenes of something that's helped me. And just to, we can do these readings, and I know you guys already know this, I'm mostly just like saying this just to say it out loud, is that, we can do these readings and stuff, but it's always like so much more powerful when it initiates some kind of like unfolding process within us where we relate, because I think that God and life is about relating. And so I think this is probably a subject that you are being invited to relate to, and really to know. It's like a lens through which you can know more about life and know more about yourself and the people that are around you, and actually can make the whole world kin. And it can bring like a light compassion here within. So that was just a mini intro. I don't know why I felt the need to kind of just say that, but anyway, so getting into the reading, we have how do you rebuild trust? And we're going to get into the piles now. And you guys, Alex has really outdone himself with like the text. So brace yourself, okay? This is new. This is about to happen to you.
Quit hyping this up. This is not that big.
I think it's a big deal. Okay, so we're going to choose our piles. You let me know. We're going to choose our piles. So we've got the cards here for you to choose from. They're all very clear, and they're like kind of in a row so that you can see. So sorry, I'm just gonna get used to this. Okay, so that's pile number 1, then that's pile number 2, and that's pile number 3. Sorry, I'm stupid. Okay, so we'll just put all that up again so that you can look at that. You can take a second and be drawn into your pile, like go through whatever your process is, and boom. You can look at these and look at whatever your process is, and keep in mind that however you get drawn into the piles in an annoying fashion, like I've just done for you today, I'm kidding, or can also tell you a lot. It can be a clarifying message in and of itself. So I'll leave that up for just another second here. Whoop whoop. Welcome. Oh, I'm getting the chills. Nice. Okay. My stomach hurts, by the way, so we might get a little more of a show than you were expecting today. We're just gonna, I have a ginger ale here. I'm also drinking coffee, probably like not well advised, but okay, let's move on to pile number 1. Also, I just want to show you this too. Okay. With love. All right, pile number 1. How can you trust again? I'm just gonna, okay, so this is pile number 1. Okay. It's gonna get a little choppy today because I'm distracted with that. Okay. So pile number 1. How can you trust again? Okay, actually I'm getting quite a lot just at the beginning. I feel like part of how you can trust again is by understanding what went wrong in situations where your trust was knocked. I kind of think some of you have been through situations where there wasn't open communication. Like you might not have gotten to process this in like the proper, correct way, in the proper container, like with the person who either knocked your trust or maybe that you knocked trust with. Because I kind of think for some of you who chose this pile, you could be a person who has diminished trust in your relationships in the past, but maybe you didn't know why that you did this. So it feels like there hasn't been proper communication. So actually that's one of the things that I learned in kind of researching for this reading is that really the main things in rebuilding trust is open communication and time. And I'm hearing that song Time by NF. It's like, even if we both break down tonight and you say you hate me and we go to bed angry, I know everything will be all right. I just need time. I need a little time to show you I'm worth it. I know that I can be a difficult person. I'm a stress case, stress you up the wall when I'm working. Actually, I'm probably worse when I'm not. You don't deserve it. So see how that song is like processing. It's processing like your own behaviors. It's taking accountability for those behaviors. It's kind of like speaking it out loud to kind of like clear the air. Because I think what's eroded trust in the past in like your couples or in the places that it's been eroded is that there hasn't been this open communication, which when there's not open communication and things aren't talked about directly, then if you're the person who's been wronged, you kind of wonder if the person who wronged you knows that they wronged you. Like if they know fully and to a degree that makes you feel safe again or like comfortable or like so you can calm down your energy, you wonder if they know like what they did to hurt you or what they did wrong. And I think that might be an open question that lingers like between you and another person. So I think the person who was wronged in this situation, if it was you, I think you kind of go through the world like with your hackles up, not knowing if you're just going to be taken advantage of again, because I think the certain like superficial things were there, like the smiles and the nodding and the friendship and the pleasant conversation, but then the actual like the principles and the virtues and the values and the respect is maybe was not there. Because I think that okay, so I'm seeing in my mind, I'm seeing a man, and I don't know if that's relevant or not, but I'm seeing a man and he's actually like big, but he's like hunched in on himself and he's like, I really feel insecure, like I don't know how to get girls or like, you know, something like that. It's like feeling really insecure. And I think that there might not be an understanding here because there hasn't been open communication, because it's somebody's like worst fear is what I'm getting, because there hasn't been that. You don't know where it comes from. And so it's still this kind of mystifying experience. So it's almost like you haven't been able to process and like get to the root, because if you knew where it came from, the root of it, like why you dealt with a certain behavior in another person, then it's almost like you would know what to look out for and you would trust yourself to see those flags and to adjust accordingly, even if it is to have an open conversation before something like blew up in your face. But I feel like you were just kind of left to process things alone, or you were the person that was kind of like withholding. But I am seeing that person that's just like they're hunched over and they're feeling really insecure. And because they're feeling insecure, I feel like this has led to a very tainted self-expression. And it's kind of like the mountain here, where there's like a freezing and there's like there isn't aloneness, but it's like bottling the true self in. So either you've been this person, I mean, we all kind of are this person, you know, and that could be part of building trust too, is just knowing that feeling that way and being imperfect is very much a part of the human experience. And that people deal with that in different ways, and we all show that in different ways. It doesn't make you like a freak, like, oh, you can't sit with us. You know, it doesn't make you like a freak like that. There are ways to handle that energy that people are not going to be safe around you, but you don't have to do those things, you know. But it does kind of add to a loneliness, because I'm just picturing this like mountain without that guy in it. You know, it's like the mountain, like strong, noble, like flat affect, like I'm impenetrable kind of thing. So either you feel like you have to come off that way, and the voice in your head tells you that that's really protecting yourself, that that's really what strength is but it really is just the impression of strength. And true strength is actually to know thyself, and which includes knowing your vulnerabilities and your weaknesses, knowing your limits, and just owning up to your limits, because as a human being, you have limits. The human experience is about limits. So and dealing with those accordingly, because honestly, some of your limits might not be high on your priority list to address at the moment, because you might have survival needs or something that you're focused on. And so you might just have to be honest with that. Like, listen, I don't have the bandwidth to like deal with this right now, but this is something that I acknowledge is a weakness. However, my money situation is a weakness, and I need to make sure that there's food on the table, and that's what I'm focused on. But it doesn't mean that I don't love you. It doesn't mean that I don't care about you. It doesn't mean that I don't respect you. And I think some of you did not have that experience given to you where somebody explained those things. I think they just let their bad behavior stand, and you were left to feel like you deserved it, and that or that it was because of something that you did wrong, where you didn't deserve like proper treatment in your relationships, and that or that you didn't earn their vulnerability. Because I think some of you worked very hard to be like an open, safe person, and somebody else just could not get over their own stuff, and instead they put like a bunch of tricks and games, and they were just like impenetrable, or try to blame you for stuff, gaslit you and everything, because they were unwilling to like look at themselves. And you were in an intimate relationship. This would be a situation where it's like you were in an intimate relationship. You don't feel entitled to someone's like emotional space. You were in an intimate relationship with this person that needed to function, or that's like where you were headed. And you were also demonstrating healthy, safe social and communication skills, and it's for some reason like that still wasn't enough for somebody else. And I just think that kind of relationship dynamic, being in that and not understanding that that's the dynamic between the two of you, not understanding the person that you're dealing with, because I think this person comes off very strong, and they are strong in certain areas, but someone who's truly strong can admit to their vulnerabilities. They can own up to their weak points. And it's stupid to do this with just anybody, because sociopaths exist, narcissists exist, people who try to penetrate your boundaries when you've repeatedly told them that you don't want a relationship, or that they are pushing your boundaries, that they are making you uncomfortable, that they do need to stop. That's not a person to open up to, and that person does feel entitled. So some of you could have dealt with that as well. And those people also, it could have been, if you are the person who's like very like buttoned up, it could have been someone like that felt entitled, and they were just pushing. And I'm hearing like those people are confidence artists, because at the heart of this is like low self-esteem. It's like not having confidence, or dealing with a person like that. And those traits could have mirrored in you, but I think somebody here might have been more willing to be vulnerable with that. But so everybody kind of feels that way, right? But I just feel that not understanding where that comes from could have had you involved with the narcissists, confidence artists, people who again give the impression of confidence, which then just makes somebody here feel like less alone, or I mean more alone, even if they are in a crowded room, even if they have formed relationships, but they've done it based on like this false facade. So it's learning how to kind of bring down the armor. And so this is like one of those seed scenarios where you're peeling back the layers of the onion. It goes back and back and back and back and back, because it's like, okay, well, how do I trust again? But we started with like, how do I trust other people? Okay, well, first it starts by kind of analyzing the dynamic that went wrong, understanding kind of why it went wrong. This is going to be hard for this pile, I think, because again, I just don't think that you had the conversation that you wanted to have like with someone, or like the explanation that you wanted to have. Well, then this comes down to like trusting the self. Okay, well, why don't you trust the self? Well, it's because I think it's this feedback loop between the two. Well, because I've gotten in relationships and the feedback was off. The consequences were off, and I couldn't account. There was a hidden variable that I couldn't account for. For some of you, this was like a third party, and the reason there was a third party is because bravado, I just heard, somebody doesn't have confidence, so they try to make it up with bravado. They misplace strength energy for causing harm energy. Like, I pushed you down. I caused you harm because I'm the powerful one. It's like a misunderstanding of power, and I feel like that kind of leads to some kind of messed up version of love, for especially this masculine energy that I'm seeing, which it could be a masculine side of things, because I'm hearing like, because I'm weak and insecure and I don't know, I'm literally hearing I don't know how to get girls. And this could come from like an adolescent space, I don't know. But it's like, because I don't know how to get girls, it's like, I don't know what to do. And it's become this twisted kind of perverted sense of love. And I feel victimized. This is very victim, rescuer, persecutor. It's like, well, I feel victimized because I don't know how to get girls and because I'm being rejected, instead of being able to be self-reflective, because the self-reflective part, it's like somebody here doesn't even get to doing the self-reflective part because they're just so afraid that the answer is that they are like repulsive and that they aren't what people are looking for and that they're not sexy or that they're not strong or that they're not a good partner. So like instead they don't even try, and they start to kind of like do all these tricks and stuff that you kind of see these scammy artist people, these con artist people kind of like do in order to give the impression, or to take it, and they feel justified in doing that because they feel so victimized, and they feel entitled to it. So they actually become a persecutor energy. And I think maybe, if you're the person who's been involved with these people, you have kind of taken on that rescuer role because you can see the vulnerability in this person. So they're behaving badly. So the consequences, the feedback in this situation of like, I do this and it's supposed to result in this, it's all off with this pile for both you and this other person. Because it's like, hey, I'm trustworthy. And then this person like slaps your hand down again because they need to get over themselves. Kind of a situation. So there's a lot of that that's going on. And there was just something else that was like right here that I was going to grab. But basically, I feel like this is a pile that has to learn to love themselves. Like, oh yeah, because I'm seeing that masculine energy saying like, well, I don't know how to get girls. And if, this is exactly the kind of person that falls into like the fresh and fit kind of like dynamic bullshit, where it's also guys who don't know how to get girls and feel like uncomfortable in that have learned tricks, and they get girls drunk and they lie and they manipulate. They don't hold themselves to a standard. They push off like the harm because they don't have any true nobility. They don't have any true strength. This is bullying. Bullying is not strength. They misunderstand like power energy even for like true nobility and true like strength. So that's misunderstood here. And because that's misunderstood here, their actions are all confused. And even if you are a female here and you can kind of relate to this, the masculine side, the doing side, my actions are all confused because I feel insecure and I don't know how, like my actions, it confuses my actions. And so, yeah, I think that's a part of it too. It confuses my actions. And so I'm doing things and I think that I should get this result, but then I don't because I'm actually causing more confusion. So this group, it's like open communication. It really is open communication and time. And I think that if you're trying to repair trust with a particular person in general, you do have to acknowledge the fact that, this was another thing that the article said that I found so profound. They said, it's helpful if you look at trust like it's a decision that somebody has to make. Somebody has to choose to trust you, which is pro-social dynamics, right? So if you acknowledge that someone has to choose to trust you, you can go the fresh and fit route where you become an incel, manipulative asshole. So you're going to manufacture trust, which is disrespectful, and it's going to cause a lot of negative karmas, but it's also going to cause a lot of harm, especially if someone ever catches a whiff of it, which they're bound to, right? Because the truth will always come to light in situations. And it's actually not a good thing if the truth doesn't come out for a long time, because then you've just got this track record of being, willing to lie and cover things up. But if you acknowledge that trust is a choice that somebody else has to make towards you, then you can be a person that is trustworthy. And you can do that by having empathy, by understanding what you yourself as a person, it's like work backwards from the problem is what I'm getting. Like, what do you yourself need in order to trust someone? Well, you need to feel safe, And what does that mean? That means open communication. It means I'm not hiding anything. And you do that because you're trying to build cooperation and you're trying to build a relationship. It's not because you're a simp. It's not like all these weird fucked up things that they label healthy like interpersonal behaviors. And I think you could have been around this. You could have been marinated in this as a child where you just saw like, you heard certain things, like even if there was like a fair amount of hypocrisy where like maybe your dad understood that he had a girl child and that he needed to protect her and he needed to teach her certain ways. But then when you watch his behavior and his relationship with your mom or your stepmom or like whatever, like he just was clearly an asshole. Like, you know what I'm saying? It's there could be some of that where, again, I just feel like there's a disconnect here between the words that are said and the way that someone feels inside. And that's all like because of self-protection. And so everyone's confused and jumbled in this situation. And in that article, it said, miscommunication and misunderstanding can cause as much damage as like actually lying and actually betraying. And I feel like that's maybe what's bumped in here as well. I mean, there could be betrayal mixed in with some of these relationships that have kind of gone sideways, but I just don't think that there's been people who are actually able to have the courage, the intention, and the skill set to talk through these things. And also it could be though that you don't have the relationship foundation built. You don't actually have the trust. So it's kind of a chicken or the egg with this pile, because it is like you need a certain amount of trust and intimacy, respect, and you have to be able to trust someone's integrity and their ability to be sincere and to like say what they mean. So there's a lot that actually goes into this. And I think some of you like kind of need to understand that. And I think part of the reason why some of you need to understand that in this pile is because some of you are actually so good at trust and like being the trusting person. Like you actually have thought all this through, and you tried to be sweet and simple, and you tried to do all the things, and then it was still taken advantage of by a person like this that you thought was the emperor. Elena, thank you so much for the super chat. Happy Friday. Somebody that you thought was the emperor, somebody that you thought was the mountain. You thought this person was strong, and they're a little bit responsible for giving you a false impression, because you can't read their mind. Like you can't read their mind. And so I think you were maybe sweet, or like if you found interest in somebody, you expressed that in a way that was not playing mind games, or and then that person didn't respond the way that you thought, because you thought you were looking at strength. But you were looking at pretend strength, because then they did all this pissant stuff. Mind games, cheating on you. Amy, thank you so much for the super chat. And you couldn't understand that. And because you had such a high opinion of this person, thinking, oh, well, they're strong. They could have been like older than you, or like having more education or professional opinion or something. And then like that came back in a certain way. And I think it's partly seeing them as a person too, like seeing their vulnerable bits too. But you're not expected to mind read. And I think part of it is knowing when to say no and when to walk away, and saying like, you're not able to meet me on a Libran dynamic. So, and I think that might be hard for this group, because I think you could have been in situations where it's like kind of sunken cost fallacy, where you're like, I'm going to fix it because I'm just going to keep demonstrating to you that I'm safe, and you can be vulnerable with me, and you can be honest, and you don't have to do this weird bravado thing. I actually really dislike it. I think the other side of this is they don't understand that most people don't like their bravado. They might attribute any success that they've gotten to their bravado, because they could have been really awkward adolescents or something. And it's not because of their bravado. It's like in spite of their bravado, and they need to kind of learn that. But it's just, they've got to undo their own weaknesses. So this is very much like the Aries, Libra, and Axis, where it's like, yeah, the key to relationships, Libra, is actually like having a strong sense of self. And I'm kind of getting that here, because look at this man in this, I almost said tower. So maybe there's some tower energy here, but this mountain, and he's like in this flames. And to me, that's like burning off karmas. Karmas are your lessons, right? And like, I feel like this person has to burn off their lessons, which I think are primarily like Aries. And so they always are just thinking from their own selfish perspective, which even from that victim-y, I'm so vulnerable attitude, sometimes people are not like narcissistic or whatever, because they're just constantly thinking about, well, this is mine and this is mine. Sometimes they're so preoccupied with their own vulnerability that they cannot see your humanity as well. So it's kind of this two ships passing in the night scenario, or you've been in dynamics like this. And I actually think it's because you just have very different responses, like you and the people that you've been in relationships with, to that sense of vulnerability, because you're like, okay, I'm going to jump into the water because that's the only thing to do here. I refuse to disrespect you, and I refuse to act like a jackass. So I guess I'm going first. And if this person's not going to acknowledge that you are brave for doing that, and you are relationship material, you're the prize, you are the leader in the situation, then there's really nothing that you can do except for to lead your ass right on out of that situation, because you can't. I think it's like a boundaries thing. So one person here, it's like you need to be more Aryan, in the sense like you need to think of yourself. You need to think of what you need in a relationship to have trust. Like actually spend time thinking about that. Because I think this is another thing. It's like we think we know what we need to feel trust, but maybe you don't. Like just sit down with your journal and just see what comes out, Or I just heard, put this thought in your mind for the next week. And even as you're watching like shows, or you're going about your daily activities like with people, your guides may, I'm getting goosebumps. Your guides may actually pique something up in your mind. Like, okay, so if you were in that situation that you just saw play out on that sitcom, how would you feel? How would you handle it? Is it igniting something in you that you didn't know that you actually do need to feel safe? And there are no politically incorrect answers within your own mind. Like, even if it's like, well, I need to live on a rock alone on the moon and not see another person for like 5 years, that's still valid for you to know about yourself. Tasha, thank you so much for the super chat. Here for the nuggets. Yes. Oh, nice. Okay, yeah. So I think like it's like alone time here. And the other thing that I'm getting with this pile, because I'm seeing like, okay, one person here is the mountain, and they're actually like very built up. This is actually a very strong person. And there's another person here who is like down on the ground, and they feel inadequate. And to some extent, they are inadequate in the sense that they are not as built up as this person in some arena, but they would like to be. And this person, because they're so insecure, I think there's a kind of person here. And I don't know if this is you or somebody that you've been with, where it's like they just want to bum rush up. It's like they just cannot stand it. They can't sit. They can't calm. They can't like stay in acceptance. They can't deal with the inner self to say like, this is all pointing me towards like my lessons and stuff. They can't do that. Instead, they want to bum rush up on this person. and like make them, force them to be like in a relation. This is like a pushy person. This is a person that absolutely nobody in their right mind would ever be in a relationship with or want to be in a relationship with, because they have such poor relationship skills, and they are going to feel victimized because they feel entitled. And they can't like unpack that, and they need to. Nobody wants to be in a relationship with you because you feel entitled. And so you think you have a trust issue, but you have an entitlement issue. That's for somebody. Or this is like a person that you're dealing with. You can't work it out with somebody like that because they're incapable. And they've proven themselves incapable. And so I feel like Spirit just keeps taking this person and setting them right exactly the fuck back to where they're supposed to be. And this person feels victimized by that because they lack wisdom and they're not able to see straight. So, like everybody has to kind of be alone. This is like very hermit mode, and like be in your own kind of like flames. And that's what I'm really getting here as well, is like the ability to be alone and to not be codependent. Because a lot of us want the fantasy, like we're taught that relationship will complete us and that we are entitled to a relationship and that there's somebody out there for us, but we can't rush the timeline on that. And I think this group might actually be, it's like not very available for relationships, and you shouldn't judge yourself for that. That's exactly like your path. Like this is a group that might not have dated very many people. And if you have dated a lot of people, if you're resonating with this, I think it's coming from like maybe the wrong place, and that might be something to unpack. But it's like, I think Spirit kind of has on the docket for you to be alone for stretches of time so that you know you can do it, and then you can be more discerning. And when these kind of people like show up, it's not like, oh no, and like leaving the situation behind. The last thing that I'm getting for this group is I do feel like either you've been this way or somebody else that you've been in a relationship has been this way, where I'm hearing like that high value kind of thing that our society says. It's like a group of traits for like females. It's a group of traits for males that our society considers high value. Stupid to use the word value. Their values are so personal, right? But I dislike that. I understand why they say it, but it's generic. And when someone's generically high value, it kind of means jack shit. Like when you actually know yourself, because it takes one person for you to be in a relationship with. So I think an insecure person would maybe choose someone that society deems high value as a solution to their insecurities, and then cause people who actually represent their values and that they actually feel a love connection with, they displace their insecurities on that person, because then it's like, well, you're not enough because now I'm comparing you to this person who's high value. But honestly, if I was honest with myself, if I could know myself and know why I do the things that I do, I'm only with this person because I feel deeply insecure, and I feel like I'm seeing some like there's a mutual relationship here, a very karmic relationship where both of them kind of feel that way about each other, and they're in a relationship to kind of mirror the insecurity and mirror the fact that, well, you have something that I feel like I should have for my family or society or whatever. And I'm choosing from the entirely like wrong place. And so some of you could be considered like high value person. And again, that doesn't mean that you're a bad person. You can be a high value person, but you don't want to be chosen. Like if you're a real one, if you are a high value person in like the female way or the male way, you don't want to be chosen for that. Those are the people you're trying to get away from you, is the people who are trying to choose you for that reason. You want somebody who can actually like connect with you as a person that is like your person, because it just takes one. It just takes one person. You don't have to attract 100 people. And actually, if you do attract 100 people, it's probably a pain in your ass, because you're like, I'm trying to hear my person. I'm trying to see my person, and I can't tell. Like, so I think for some of you, it's like that's created trust issues in you as well, because you've got people that present like they're going after you for the right reason, but it's just really to get you and to be with you and everything. So really this comes down to like open communication and maybe saying the quiet part out loud. Like, are you with me for my money? Or like, are you with me for my looks? Or, we don't really seem to get along very well, do we? Why are we together? Like, are you comfortable being this shallow and unconscious? Because I'm really not. Like, this isn't what I'm looking for. And actually, like I'm hearing that word sacrifice, because to sacrifice is to make sacred. So I feel like moving away from that relationship is actually what brings in the other relationship. But you have to consecrate yourself of going after the thing that everybody thinks that they want, because the only reason you're doing that is because you feel insecure. And you can't go after the thing that you want. That's actually going to feed your healthy confidence. And that's going to be that healthy mirror. And then that feedback loop all of a sudden works instead of not working to a large extent over here. So there is this kind of chicken or the egg. There's a karmic cycle. It is a feedback loop cycle between I can't trust other people and I can't trust myself. Well, I can't trust myself because that masculine side of me that is action oriented is confused because I'm insecure and I don't know what to do. So instead, I'm going to act strong. I'm going to act like I know what to do. And I'm going to kind of get pushy in the space. This could even be like This is kind of ignorance where, I know you know the kind of person that I'm talking about, where they actually have very little experience in an arena, but it's like they think they kind of get something, and then they're like, and I know it for a full fact, and they've known it for like 5 minutes, and it's like, meanwhile, there's somebody with a doctorate degree in this, and like, it's like, calm down. Like, you're still in the learning phase. Okay. Like, now's not the time to bristle up. You still need to be flexible. You still need to be porous. You need to be checking your hypothesis and your theories, through all of these things, because you need to it's the Dunning-Kruger effect is the other thing. Is like listening to people that, like, I think of Fresh and Fit like this, where, it's like they might have figured something out, but then honestly, like, they're not very receptive, because then they can't check it to all the different sectors of their life, because it's causing harm in other sectors of their life. So they don't have a whole balanced theory, but they can't even acknowledge that, because they're too busy in this like defensive, like, no, I figured something out and it finally works and I'm so desperate for relief, like, kind of thing. So there's a little bit of that as well. But the Dunning-Kruger effect, just to finish that thought, is when somebody knows just enough to do like a lot of harm, somebody who, it's like this chart, right? So like when you first start to learn about a subject, you think you know everything about it, but actually you don't. And the more that you learn about a subject, you realize all the things that you don't know. So a lot of times, like the empty drum clanks the loudest. Like, just because somebody's voice is the loudest in a situation, sometimes they're trying to convince themselves. Basically. So I think you could have maybe followed the wrong advice. And it doesn't have to be from somebody on a platform like Fresh and Fit. It could be from like your idiot best friend from when you were 17. And then like you integrated that, and you didn't like, you just don't even remember that you integrated that. And so now it's just kind of this unconscious thing that you do. And then you're like, I can't believe I'm still doing that thing from when I was 17. It could be something here like that. So, okay. That was like a lot in that one pile. Mariel says, I cringe when I hear high value. Me too. It's usually the cringiest men fighting in gender war podcasts, asking weird questions. Yeah. Oh my gosh. Okay. So this says, why exactly did the betrayal of trust hurt you? So you might need to know this about another person. Again, this goes down to like having that open communication, but spend time with yourself. Like, I think hurting is another thing where it's like, I know I was hurt by this, and it's easy to kind of stop there. Like, I understand that I'm deeply hurt by this. And again, you might face that kind of ego annihilation to really say like, why did it hurt you? So it's like, if your boyfriend cheated on you with another person, it's like, okay, well, I know that I'm very hurt. And it's like, well, you should understand why I'm hurt. And like, not only to him, but like to your therapist and all your best friends and stuff. But it might be worth it to say like, because I don't feel good enough. Because I feel threatened, I feel compared, I feel like I have to strive for an eternity, and I'm never going to be able to do that. And so now the love that I wanted more than anything just feels hopeless, and all of this just feels so bad to me. Like, why exactly did the betrayal of trust hurt you? Exactly where? Show me on the doll. I just heard, like, where? Do you hurt in here? Do you hurt here? Are you confused? Are you like, because part of the hurt as well makes you confused to deal with relationships confidently in the future, which is going to knock your trust in yourself. And that's going to make you feel unconfident. See, it's like this cyclical thing. It's going to knock your trust in yourself. Then you're going to feel unconfident. And then you're going to think that you have this trust issue, confidence issue thing. And really, it's like trying to kind of like parse through this. Oh my gosh, open communication and time. Which we already talked about. Okay, how do you intend to avoid making the same mistakes again? So this might be something, this is kind of like what I was saying the quiet part out loud, the part that you're like afraid to say to another person. Well, how do you intend to avoid making the same mistakes again? Like, when you accept someone's apology, especially after they've like really hurt you, it doesn't mean that like the slate is entirely clean, and anyone who would expect that of you is very low on social emotional intelligence, or they're high in a way that you need to run, and you need to look out for that. And this is important information for you to know, and asking this question is going to help you know it. And this is having your own back, and like really holding a line with somebody. So again, if you like spend some time thinking about this, if you have broken trust in the past, how exactly do you plan on it? And I wonder if it's going to come out here, but like I'm thinking about like a construction project or something. So there'd be like phase 1, phase 2, phase 3. Like, it's going to take some time, but like phase 1, okay, like if we're still going to be in relationship to each other, I understand that things are going to have to be different for a while. Open communication, long periods of time, right? Like, what does that look like? And then once you tell me like you're good, we can move on to phase 2, then we can move on to phase 2, right? But it's like, how do you avoid making the same mistakes again, and having that conversation like with another person? I think it's okay as well. Some of you need to hear, it's okay for you to ask out loud, how could I ever trust you? how can I ever trust you? Or if you are like the person who broke in the trust, it's like, how could they ever trust me again? Actually put yourself in their shoes and like try to figure that out. It's worth weighing your options. Okay, so this is like, you might need to consider the divorce. Like, you should put yourself in the position of like actually go through the motions of what would it take? Like, okay, I got cheated on. Like, what would it take to like actually have the divorce? What would my life look like afterwards? Like, consider all of your options here, because that's gonna bolster your self-trust, because you're gonna have explored all of the avenues. Because for some of you, could be in a situation where it's like you need to trust yourself to make a decision, but you stutter at making a decision because you haven't thought through all of your decisions entirely, because some of them might be too scary or too painful to look all the way through. But it literally creates step 1, step 2 plans for like every single one of those things, and that will help you with your trust as well. Yeah, and be decisive. So when you make a decision, stick to the decision. That's part of building trust with yourself, I just heard. And meditation. So a meditation practice might be good. Is it worth it? Is it even worth it to rebuild trust in this situation? Ask yourself the hard questions is what I'm hearing. They want you to ask yourself the hard questions. You have to understand what went wrong. You have to be very realistic about who you are in the relationship, or who you're in a relationship with, because some of these people, this is not a hop, skip, and a jump to like, to being able to trust them because of the way that they're built up internally. And if they're not willing to like work on it, then you can't do it for them. And some of you, it's like you need to call a spade here. Admit your mistakes and take responsibility. Yeah. Somebody here might need to admit their mistakes, take responsibility, even for yourself, like where you're like, I knew that guy was a cheater and I still got in a relationship with him. Just apologize to yourself, like admit your own mistakes in the situation. Yeah, so that's pile number 1. I keep hearing that song Time by NF. Even if we both break down tonight. It's having the hard conversations, which again, it's courage. I think this comes down to courage. Is it even worth it? Yeah. Yeah. Damien just said that, okay, so is it even worth it? She says, not that I would say it's more like just admitting it to yourself. Yeah, because I think this group might have a hard time admitting certain things to themselves, like because you always want to be the nice person, or you always want to, you yourself want to be doing the right thing so bad by other people that you forget to do the right thing by yourself. And then that throws off the relationship dynamic. You're in a codependent relationship. And then I think some of you are with people who have this perverted version of love and actually look at you and your kindness and your tolerance as like, oh, well, you're just a doormat. And it's just an excuse for me to take advantage of you and treat you bad. And also her, everybody that I'm just dragging into my own bullshit, you know? Okay. Are you laughing over there?
No, I couldn't agree more.
Oh, yeah.
Like, we so often try to, temper our speech and try to, be diplomatic and political in the way that we, present ourselves to everybody. But frankly, when it comes to in our own home behind closed doors, like, we need to be brutally, disgustingly honest about how we actually feel and about the truth of what we're actually learning about someone or some situation. Because, like, that's where it matters.
Yeah.
Because otherwise you can't actually discern and make, appropriate and healthy decisions for yourself.
Yeah.
If you actually believe the tempered speech that you put out into the world, if you look at that as the whole truth, then you're just deceiving yourself further, and you're allowing people's lives to actually continue to snowball you and keep you fogged out and behind the veil.
Yeah. Because I think it's important to be nice and kind, but it can't be at the expense of truth. And it's different than being cruel, but if your relationship requires you to live a delusion and to not be able to acknowledge the truth or talk about the truth, then the cost is just too high, and what are you even doing at that point? All right. Next coven, Alec mic'd up. You guys, I would love to do a podcast with Alex, and I would never push you into it because Alex is he's just a chill guy. Like, he's a very well-rounded person. Sometimes he's behind the scenes. Sometimes he's very talkative. It's just however he's like kind of feeling. He's fully himself, and yeah. But you really are blessed whenever Alex like opens up and really does like decide to share. Nice. Dynamic duo. Yeah. All right. That was pile number 1.
Yeah, it was.
He said, yeah, it was. Okay. Okay, wait, hold on. Now we're moving on to pile number 2. Okay, sorry. This is pile number 2. Catherine, thank you so much for the super chat. Please, Alex Podcast. Yeah. All right. Pile number 2. Moving on. Yeah, we're moving on. Okay. Pile number 2. I'm going to start over here with my bowl. By the way, this is the walnut bowl that I was talking about that I feel like
you've always wanted to show off.
If you would like to compliment my bowl, do so. I love this bowl. Okay. I found that at an antique store. I'm like obsessed with it. Okay. So pile number 2, Spirit. How can they trust again for pile number 2? Okay. This one says, keep calm, move with purpose. So this has a lot to do with self-talk. This is like, okay, immediately looking at the bridge card, I'm hearing like inner child work. So this is a group that I think has, reparenting, inner child work stuff, but like keep calm, move with purpose. And I'm kind of picturing like emergency sirens going off like in a building, which is maybe like a fight or flight response or something like in your body, but it's like learning how to reparent yourself, switching around that like inner voice, like that's telling you that you can do it. I'm hearing I can do hard things. So like you can do hard things just because something's hard or it looks like the mountain like in front of you. Maybe this is like a very standoffish person or your boss or something. You can do hard things just because it's in front of you. You know, it's like the reality is that this might be difficult, but I'm going to try, you know? And at least I learned something. And, you know, it's reframing those things. And, you know, I had a therapist once. This was brutal for me because I can be very impatient. I have a lot of Mercury energy like in my chart, which is just like finding the fastest way around the sun. And she used to make me or like have me basically do homework where I had to fill out these worksheets where it's like, if I had a negative self-talk, like negative anxiety filled like thought, I would write that thought down. And I would do this for every single like negative thought that I had that week. And then I would actually say like, I would pull it apart, you know, I can't do this. Well, all I can do is try. You know, so how can you better reframe this? I'm intimidated by this, but I'm going to try anyway. And you know what? That's brave. So she would have me like understand like what my thought was actually trying to tell me instead of like, oh my gosh, I can't do this. And I'm so panicked. Like instead of focusing on that, it would be like, well, all I can do is try. I'm going to try. And that is very brave of me. And even if I fail, I'm going to learn something from this. So it's like reframing things like in, and like also having people around you, because whenever I said that, I looked up and I saw Ramina's like loving little face, like looking at me, and he's such a like father figure to me. He's like the father that I wish I had, the father that I do have, just like, you know, spiritually speaking. And he just looked at me so lovingly and so just like supportive. And honestly, Alex is that for me as well. Like somebody who mirrors that. Like Alex's loving face and like his eyes, his kind eyes are burned into my brain. And I feel like that is like a gift from God. So like being around somebody that like when you stand up for yourself or when you kind of work through something, even when it's hard, it like reflects back to you that like, this is so important. This is so brave. Like, I'm so glad that like you're able to do this. So like kind of surrounding yourself with people that you would want like your child around, your inner child around, but keep calm, move with purpose. And the keep calm part's really standing out because I feel like this group might flare up into an anxiety response, but I think it does have like to do with parental issues and maybe not feeling so stable in your childhood. So you kind of might feel that if you don't freak out about something that you can't do it, like you can't get it done, but actually you can, and you'll surprise yourself like how much more you can get it done if you just remain calm, and then you can actually think clearer. I'm hearing with this group, like where you feel like you've messed up in your life, you would be surprised how much of it is just like muddled thinking because you're in an anxious state. And you might tell yourself that you're a whole bunch of other things when really you're just anxious. Like, so you might say like, well, I'm really stupid. Or I like, this was so stupid because when you're calm and you're not in your fight or flight state, that kind of like shuts off the brain because it just wants you to go, you know. You might find when you're not in that state, you know exactly what to do. So it's not an intelligence thing, you know, it's an anxiety thing. So just breathe. Breathing exercises might be very good for this group. And just check to make sure you're doing it right. Because for a long time, I breathed the wrong way. Like literally, I can't even do it now. Like whenever I would inhale, somehow I would suck my like belly button back towards my spine. Like I don't even know how I was doing that, but imagine what that was doing to like my nervous system. Like, you know, so just breathing, calming, and having some way that you can go to the bathroom, calm yourself down in a minute or less is what I'm hearing. Find something that like works for you and ask a therapist. You can go to a therapist and say, it's my goal to figure out a way to calm myself in a minute or less. Can you help me? Like throw out like ideas or something. You can like, don't be afraid to ask. Oh, look, self-blame leads to self-doubt. Self-blame. This is a group that like blames yourself, but I feel like you're just so agity, fidgety, like high-strung nervous system is what I'm hearing. High-strung nervous system. This is, there's like nervous system retraining programs and stuff like that, like from like neuroscientists and stuff that you might want to look into. But yeah, there's a lot of self-blame, and self-blame is just inherently unproductive. So this is different than taking accountability. This is different than responsibility. And you should probably spend some time here pulling the two apart, because this is just lashing yourself. This is just blame. It wouldn't surprise me if you grew up in like a Father God religion where you were taught that you were guilty for every single thing that like you said or did. And that's what's leading to self-doubt. And then you're not trusting yourself. And then it spirals out of control. I feel like this is a group where things can like unravel kind of like very quickly. But this for you really is like a mindset game. It's learning how to manage your body as a system, because there is a communication between the mind-body connection. So yeah, like this group might want to look into the mind-body connection. I just heard Eastern Body, Western Mind, which is a book that you can get and you can read it from like your library. There might be some things in there that helps you understand, again, like that mind-body connection, because you can control the mind through the body. This yogic breathing, this is yoga. Like this is the entire like fundamental basis of why people do yoga. So this is another thing too, understanding that like you might have tried yoga or meditation before, but you didn't understand like there's this pragmatic purpose that I can actually kind of biohack is what I'm getting, like my body, in order to calm my mind. And I think you'll start noticing the difference between the two. But the breathing thing is like, so the self-blame leads to self-doubt. Do things you like and are good at to like build your confidence here. I think, and also to temper out and to balance. Okay, so I think like when you feel anxious and you feel intimidated, because I'm picturing you standing in front of the mountain where you're just like intimidated by like a task or a person you have to talk to about the raise or something, and you're like very intimidated. I think you think like, oh, well, I just have to go into my uncomfortable zone. That's how I'm going to fix this. So I actually think weirdly, you are courageous. This is a group that's much more courageous and intelligent than you realize, because you don't understand where in the process you're like kind of messing up. You are actually very courageous, because I think you tell yourself, well, I need to go into the discomfort zone. So then you do, but you're maybe always going to your discomfort zone instead of doing the things that you like and are good at, and reminding yourself that you are actually good at certain things. You do actually have natural propensities. Also, this might be like a little trick, but like if you're dealing with the mountain person, invite them and invite people in general to see you in your element, to see you in your remit, to doing something that you are like. If you're really good at bowling, have a bowling night regularly so people can come in and see you in your element. So yeah, you might be the newest kid at the firm, but you're really good at bowling, and so it kind of like tempers everything out, because you're not just your mistakes. I feel like this group can kind of laser focus in on their mistakes, that you forget to look behind you and look at all the things that you're naturally good at or the things that you've already overcome. You're always looking at the next thing. This is also a group that might need to enjoy the spoils. I feel like if you've hit one goal, it's like inadequacy. I think that you just always feel like you're inadequate and it will never be enough. I feel like I have to cut that thought off for you and just say, it will never be enough. Like whatever you're telling yourself of like, well, I have to get to this next goal. Okay, I got there because I told myself I was going to be fine whenever I got here. But then now that I'm here, like now I got to get to that next goal or I won't be fine. It's like, just stop, enjoy the view from like, for a second at least. Celebrate yourself. Take yourself on vacation. Make yourself a cake. I just hit 40,000 subscribers, or like we all did, and I'm gonna make myself a strawberry cake come hell or high water, because I've wanted one for like 6 months and I am gonna do it. So, and I'm just gonna celebrate myself, and I'm just gonna be like, yay, this is a milestone for me, and I'm so glad. And lavish yourself, like, enjoy the spoils, and don't forget to like look behind you here. Okay, have base standards for yourself and others and stick to them. Yeah. So, okay, this group though, I feel like some of your base standards need to be for yourself, like how you're going to talk to yourself. And how you can kind of filter things in, like, okay, well, I'm not going to use that term for myself in my head, yeah, so having base standards for yourself, also like with your own behavior, because then you won't be disappointed with yourself, because this is like a nitpicky kind of group, and I feel like very type A, and I feel like if you do I'm thinking of a meme that I saw back in the day, and it's like, just know that if I did one weird thing to you, I will think of it every single night for the next 50 years. Like, this is very much that group. So it's like, you need to, like when I was looking up the how to build trust with other people thing, one of it was like, make your decisions, right? Like, so if I'm going to stay in a relationship with you, I'm going to stay in a relationship with you, and I'm not going to keep bringing up the past. Like, we're going to hash it out to the point where I'm going to make the decision, and then we're going to kind of like, we need to move on from certain things. I feel like you need to have that understanding with yourself. Okay, I am going to process it. Don't skip over the processing. That's not what I'm saying. Process it, look at it from all angles, acknowledge the things that you need to acknowledge, preferably in a positive tone towards yourself. Give yourself grace and some self-compassion here, and then move on from it and say, you know what? I'm not that person anymore. I'm and who you are, and I don't think you give yourself enough credit for this as well, is like, you don't want to hurt other people. I think when you mess up, it's like you just don't want to look at it so bad. So maybe in the past, this has meant that you really put off things that you really wish that you didn't, and now the guilt is like magnified because you're like, oh, I really should have been braver. Kind of thing. But you really are a kind-hearted person. You are a loving person. It's true that maybe you've given people the impression that you weren't because maybe you didn't deal with something, but like you really, really, really wanted to deal with something. You were just so paralyzed. Another song by NF, Paralyzed. Where is the real me? I no longer feel things I know I should. Some of you could even like fantasize about not having feelings because like your feelings are so like intense. And you could have gone into a place of like deep apathy or depression. You might not, this is a group who could be depressed for long periods of time and like not even realize that you're depressed, or that you're stuck in some kind of freeze response. And I think you could mistake that freeze response as your personality, or as your character, or as who you are. And it isn't. You're actually a very wonderful person. You are a very loving person. You're a very pro-social person. You care deeply about other people. And again, I think it's another way of over-prioritizing other people and undervaluing the self. So this really, it would, as a person who hated the exercise that I mentioned at the beginning of this, where I had to write down every single messed up thought that I had and try to like reframe it in my own head, go ahead and do that. And it's okay to hold other people accountable too, because I had it kind of flipped in my mind where I was always making excuses for other people's behavior. I was always thinking to the ends of, well, they probably didn't mean that and this. And it's okay to just say like, they were being a jerk and I don't need to take that on. And, I'm sure like I can have compassion for them. They're having their human experience, but I don't need to like do their work for them. I need to do like my work for me, kind of thing. So having base standards for yourself and others and stick to them. Also, I think, and this could come from parental, you could have been in abusive relationships. And because your mental self-talk has been so bad, I think when other people talk to you bad, you maybe tolerated it more than you should because some part of you secretly agrees. But you only secretly agree because you don't know where this is coming from. Again, it's just coming from a place of like, you're not the things that they tell you that you are. And I do think there's a communication issue, because if good people are reflecting back that they don't trust you, and that your actions have not reflected your feelings and stuff, that really might be something for you to look at. But I think you would already know that, and I think you would just kind of beat yourself to a pulp with it. But I think you get bad people then that kind of come in there, and then they can easily tell you that you are things that you're not. But it's because they're misconstruing your anxiety that turns into apathy and like a prolonged freeze response and a fear response to you having certain traits. I think like cut people some grace here, because I think you understand why you're coming off that way. And so if someone's reasonable, then yeah, like try to explain that. Anyways, I feel like you get where I'm going, but set realistic goals. So I think this is a group that would very much benefit from even just like a review of the basics of goal setting, because getting like, you want to skip from here to the end, and breaking down your goals into small, easy, manageable, bite-sized steps is really going to be worth your time. And I think that you might think, similar to me with the breathing thing, where when I found out I was breathing wrong in my 20s, I was like, leave it to you, Jessica, to like not get breathing right. Like that's just exactly the person you are. And I think you might say stuff like that to yourself in your mind about like, okay, well, I'm the person that has to write down all my negative thoughts and then like learn how to reframe it. And I have to do it like the baby way. Or like when I'm setting my goals, I'm the person that has to like actually write my goals down and then like break it down. And it takes so much time. That's okay. It's not going to last forever, but you just have to kind of break this old habit. And I can speak for myself. Goal setting is pretty easy for me. I literally had a high school teacher that taught us goal setting. He was a science teacher. I don't think he was even meant to. I think we were ahead in a lesson, and we had this whole day that he spent talking about goals, and like it helped me. I refer to that day in my mind more than anything else that I learned in that science class. So I had someone teach me, and maybe not all of us did, because some things that seem like they should be straightforward aren't really. And our world keeps us so busy that we don't have time to kind of look into these things that might seem like very elementary. So it might be worth it to just like break all your goals down and to ask yourself, is this really reasonable? Sometimes you can get right up to the precipice where it's like, I think you're like, well, why can't I do this? Well, because the goal was too big. Like what is a smaller step that you could do where it doesn't seem so daunting and that you could accomplish today, in the next 5 minutes or in the next hour, something that, and kind of slowly work your way up to it kind of thing. Being imperfect is human. You guys just need to love on yourselves, this group. Because I think you have the harsh stuff down. Like a lot of people need the hard stuff, but you don't. I feel like you need the love stuff and exercise. Look, okay, so when I wrote this, I was kind of thinking like exercises, because I know for me, whenever I start feeling bad or depressed, if I ask myself like, when is the last time I exercised? Afra Glenn, thank you so much for the super chat. Aw, you're so sweet. So I know for me, like whenever I start feeling really bad, I ask myself like, when's the last time I exercised? Even just went for a walk or something. And usually it hasn't been for a while and I notice it immediately, but I had to get told that by several people enough times before, like, different healthcare practitioners and stuff that I would go to, mind-body connection again. So exercising, not for like physique and to pick yourself apart in the mirror or anything, but just as a part of like keeping your mental health is good, but also like the exercises. I think like, look up nerd worksheets on the internet, okay? Goal setting worksheets. Look that up. Fill them out every day. This is a group that I feel like if you did therapy, you actually would be really good with like having homework, like me, because you're very like type A. My therapists are like, do you want homework? And I'm like, yes. I need to have homework to feel like I'm like actually working my program, right? So printing off like the worksheets, goal setting worksheets, and the other one that I said, thought reframing worksheet. Like just look up thought reframing worksheet and actually fill it out. Like even if you spend some time doing it like one day and like you unpack several thoughts and then hang it up somewhere where you can see it, like on your fridge, that will be immense. That will really truly help you. Self-love, if it was a section in a qualifying exam, honestly, like literally me, because I'm so left-brained. And like the tarot stuff, because Afro Glenn was like, I still don't know if I believe in tarot, but I trust Jess. I totally understand that. I have been really iffy with like tarot, and like the right side of my brain is something that kind of scares me and has for like a long period of time. And I'm slowly wading into that space, but the left brain stuff is kind of a way for me to access it. I write notes whenever I'm channeling my readings. Sometimes I'll just write notes because I don't know if I'm going to remember it all, or, obviously like I did this, or like, I can be left brained, and I think this group would benefit from like the structure of like the left brain side of things to help contain you. I feel like I just want to contain you. Also, I just feel like get a weighted blanket. This is a group that I feel like get a weighted blanket, get, like remember Vicks Vapor Rub, but they have that in other kinds of things. Get candles, get like the essential oil, like get a diffuser, put calm things in your space, listen to 30 minutes of bird sounds every single day, like do all the wacky stuff that people tell you that will lower your blood pressure. Google it. Look, do a research assignment on like how to like manage your stress levels, fun ways, nice ways, easy ways. Prioritize yourself. This is a group like prioritize yourself, your happiness, your stress-free, your calmness, and it will do wonders. And also, if you can get out into nature, I feel like I'm just seeing like a long walk on a trail or a long bike ride. I feel like you need to tucker yourself out. If you have enough energy at the end of the day to give yourself hell, you did not tucker yourself out enough. Treat yourself like you are 5 years old and tucker yourself out before bed. Yeah. So, Chaos Coven snuggles, please. You know that I'm not suggesting you do this, but remember there was places that opened up in like California or something where you could just walk in and someone would cuddle you. Like you'd pay them and they would cuddle you on your lunch break or something. I remember hearing about that. Anyways. Okay, yeah, that was pile number 2. Because I feel like you want to connect with somebody here. And it might even be a child, because I always notice that in this. But this is like the inner child. It's like repair your relationship with your inner child. Get your inner child to trust you. Because I don't think you had very good role models as parents either. Like they could have been very domineering and they just weren't very gentle with you and like allowed you to explore your environment, like externally, but also your inner environment. I don't think that was the case with this group. So I think you became neurotic. I think you're probably high on I mean that in like the psychological, there's like neurotic scales as like one of like the big 5 traits. Like I think you're probably high like in neuroticism. Is me too, obviously. But so I think if you can repair your relationship with your inner child, make your inner child trust your inner parent. The part of you that I think you have an overly strong inner parent that just has hogged up all the room. And I think that's what it felt like in your home as a child. There was probably not enough room for you to be a child. You were maybe expected to be 40 years old when you were 3, you know? And it was just, how could you? Like, you know, when you made very age appropriate mistakes. And so there just you weren't taught how to build that container for yourself. So I think you have to make the space for yourself, you know? Yeah, because I think there's been water under the bridge and like that poisoned emotional space. But I think it's like you're kind of putting that anxious energy in there. And then when you try to offer your cup of love, it's like, I'm anxious. Ah. I totally get it. So yeah, okay, that's pile number 2. To be a no one. Yeah. Holding space for me. Yes, unfortunately. There's an Oprah activity about going to get your inner child. It's freaked. I don't know what it is, but I like whatever it is. It's like shamanic journeying, but for your inner child. Okay. Genevieve, I don't know what you're asking, but I feel like this ties directly into this message because you're like, can you tell if somebody is like meant for this message? I think you're saying a name. Can you tell if Sun River is meant for a message? But it's like that inner self. Like we all have like intuition. We can all kind of figure this out. And instead of trying to outsource that, like really try, like use the tarot as like to try to get in touch with yourself. Does this sit with me? Does it not? You don't have to know right in this moment. Like allow it, swish it around in your mouth, hear out some other messages. Journal a little bit, like allow it to just be part of a process that's like living and breathing inside of you. Because life is a relationship. You're just relating. You're just having a relationship with life and with God and everything. So I don't know if that's what you were meaning, but I feel like that kind of tied perfectly in where it's like you're not trusting your own self and you want to trust somebody else as the authority over self. Yeah, this goes back to the parental thing too, where it's like your parent could have told you what you thought. Like what your favorite color was. I remember my dad, he's a Taurus, so he would always ask me when I was little, like, well, what's your favorite this or what's your favorite that, which was actually really helpful for me to get to know myself. But I remember we were standing out on the deck one time and we had like, my mom was big into gardening. We had like a garden. We had different tulip flowers that were surrounding the deck and everything. And he was like, what's your favorite flower? And he's like, really think about it. Like, look around. So I was really thinking about it and I was looking around and, you know, I said, I really like the little yellow ones in the yard. Because to me, I just thought they were so humble and they were so happy and they were everywhere and they weren't vying for attention. Like in my way of kind of understanding this as a child, that's what I thought. I thought they give indiscriminately. They're kind of like everywhere. And that's when I should have known that I was a witch. Like if I was surrounded by other witches, they would have immediately known. But he was like, no, that's a weed. You cannot like that. That's not your favorite flower. Like choose again. So it's like that parent that's like, you can't like what you like for the reasons you like it. Like something that I feel is more like appropriate. So you could have had things like that. And then also like the next weekend, I had to pick all of them out for the yard. Because my dad was like, basically, thank you for reminding me about like the weeds. But witches know that it's actually very good to have dandelions in your yard. It's a good omen, like for keeping good energy out. But I was just kind of like the audacity of this man to ask me what my favorite flower is and like tell him. And then it's like not good enough. Because I like things that are like, they don't take themselves so seriously. They don't have to be like the thing, you know? Yeah, and they're super healthy for us. Okay. Pile number 3. Let me just have some of my cold coffee followed by a swig of ginger ale.
Cold coffee and room
Yeah. Oh, your Libra sun. Libra sun, I think, is such an interesting placement because they're such delightful people. They really are. They're beautiful people. They're balanced people. They're fair people. But it's such a hard experience because that sun energy like is debilitated. You know, it can be such a difficult experience. It's only debilitated like 13 degrees Libra or something like that. You know, so you can definitely have a strong sun like in other places. But you know, I always think about that because they're just delightful people. Okay. Ugh, the combination of that. No. Okay, so we're moving on to pile number 3, which a lot of people said is theirs in the comments. Okay, right away what I'm getting, like how to build trust with yourself, is this definitely has to do with creativity, like expressing your own creativity, trusting your own vision, and like actually building up the trust within yourself to bring that vision out into the world. Because I'm kind of picturing like a little seed and it's got to push through like all of the dirt and the soil in order to like build its strength up, you know, to sit in the sun. And I feel like you could have people around you that kind of have become naysayers. Not that in their energy they're necessarily naysayers all the time, but you know, I think you might need to get your creative energy out to like people that don't know you. You know, this is like a musician that like hits the road to take their music, you know, because they're I'm picturing a musician that's like writing songs and they're very personal. And when you try to play it for like your friends and family, they all know you. And so they're like, oh my gosh, this is so emo or like melodramatic or like, are you talking about the fair last year or something like that? Like they are just, because they know you, and they think of you as little Timmy, you know, being 7 years old on the swing set. It's like now that you're Timmy, a 37-year-old person with life experience, and you know, you're trying to like participate in the human dance. Like I think some people might not get it, or they might struggle to look at you like kind of in a new way, with like whatever your creative vision is. And I'm not telling you to like, oh, just like up and leave those people behind. They don't have a place in your life anymore. I'm not saying that at all, but I'm saying like, with your creative thing that you might feel very protective of and you don't think that like the people around you are going to get it, you might need to go somewhere else to like share whatever it is, and like not start your new business like with your friends or family. Don't show them like your artwork. Don't get their opinions on it because they have too much baggage. It's like they just know too much about you to be able to be like kind of objective. And so I think this is something about like creating from the heart, connecting with your own creativity. The other thing is like in terms of like your inner landscape and of your vision, I'm noticing this color that looks like magenta like around the edge of this. And I can show you that there. Oh no. Yeah. So like you can see the magenta that's kind of like around the edge of it. And I learned recently that magenta, cyan, and yellow are actually the primary colors. It's not red, blue, and yellow. I'm pretty sure that I'm right about that. Magenta, cyan, and yellow. But this magenta, it's like it is a primary color. So there could be something off about like your lens because like you learned something is like wrong, but actually you're doing it the right way. So this would be the inverse of me breathing incorrectly for the first 20 something years of my life. This would be like if everyone else breathed incorrectly, but I actually was breathing correctly. I think there's something like this for this group where you're like, no, I actually know something here. Oh, Chomsky, thank you so much for the super chat. And it's like you have to have the courage. And I just heard that courage, little one, courage. So yeah, this also connects to courage, but it's like courage through your creativity. And I think this is funny because it's almost like you're not having courage in yourself. It's like you believe so much in your project or your creativity or whatever it is that you want to say. It's like this is a group that has come alive with something. You don't want to just generically be a business owner. You know, some people do want that. And so they go to business school and they study business stuff because they want to own a business. But do they have a business idea? No. You know? And they're like, I don't know, one will come. And maybe it will. That's a valid path, I'm sure, as well. But this group is different. It's like this group has something they want to say or something they want to express or something that they want to bring to life that you really have this understanding for. And it's like only like you have this vision in your mind and you have to believe so much in that it's like you will naturally learn all the business stuff that goes with it, even though that might not be your interest, but you still will learn all that stuff just in order to like kind of bring this about. And then that brings courage like to the self. So this is courage like in expression kind of thing, you know? Yeah, so let me just dig around in my little bowl, my beautiful walnut bowl. Marvel. Ooh, ah. Okay, also maybe see what I'm doing? See how obnoxious that is? Maybe some of you think that like, I don't know, maybe. But see how it's like, I love this and I want you to love it too. And so I'm just like bringing it in front of you. See how I'm just like, look at that bowl. Oh my God. Like some of you, it's like, just have like the courage and the faith to be like, I love this and maybe you will love it as well. Like, you know, kind of thing. Ooh, ah. Okay, let's see. Forgiveness and self-forgiveness. Interesting. I'm going to leave that there for a second. I got to percolate. Maybe that's part of the message. Stay open-minded. Okay, this all to me looks like it's applying to like your vision. Okay, if you take the path together, don't dwell on the past. We talked about that. Okay, this is all shaping up to like one giant message. You don't need to monitor their phone, bank account, etc. Pay attention to how others make you feel. You're always learning and growing. This is falling in love with the process. That's what this is to me. Like this is you creating space for your process to unfold, and it doesn't have to be perfect. For some of you, also, don't try to commercialize something. So for something, like this is very much the Western mindset. And I think it was kind of bad that I use like the business thing as an example. Because I think for some of you, it's like just, this is about connecting with yourself. And in the Artist's Way, which by the way is a book about being artistically creative. But so much, it's like a path. It is like a spiritual path. And I do feel like for this group, creativity is a spiritual path for you. So approach it like that. Don't approach it like a business endeavor. Or anything. If that's part of your journey, then it'll come about naturally as just like a natural outgrowth of it. But indulge the process, indulge your curiosity, indulge your creativity. It definitely does not have to be perfect like the first time that you do it, because then I think you can get in your head and then like, you know, discredit your work or whatever. It's like, know that it's a journey, know that it's a path. It's going to evolve, like whatever your creative thing is. And a lot of people who do create, it's like they look back at their first draft or how it used to be their first 2 or 3 years that they were doing something and they just cringe. Like, just know that that's a part of the process and you don't have to drill down into the details. I think for some of you, it's like you think, oh, well, the best people really do pay attention to the details. The best people in their craft pay attention to their details. Well, yeah, but like not day one. You know, day one, it's about like fostering the love of something and allow that relationship to bloom. And that's what's going to bring trust in yourself. Because I was thinking about this just the other day. It's actually kind of funny where I was like, I don't know that I have like the strongest of self-confidence in the world. But sometimes when I can't trust myself, like in my skill set in something, I at least trust my curiosity. I don't know if that's like a Gemini thing, but I trust that I'm curious and that I'm allowed to be curious and that most people appreciate when you're honest that you're curious. You know, so if somebody was to like criticize my work or something, I'd be like, I'm just following my curiosity here. Like, you know, just let me follow my expression. Like, let me just see what this even is yet, you know? And at least I'm confident about that. And I'm confident that somebody's in the wrong if they don't let me do it, you know? So I think that can also be a part of maybe building self-confidence for this group, is like knowing that you have every right to experiment and explore yourself and your creativity, and that that's fun and it's part of the process. And I really do think that is your spiritual journey in this life. Like through what you create and what you love, like you learn a lot about yourself and a lot about life. And for some of you, this is so beautiful. For some of you, your creative project may be the most reciprocal relationship you ever have, where like it gives to, I'm getting goosebumps, like it gives to you just as equally, but maybe it doesn't give to you in money. It could, but maybe not like at first or something, but it really is like that you just fall in love with it, you know? And for all the right reasons. And you may learn a lot about love through creativity, through some kind of like creative outlet. You may process a lot about life and love and things like through a creative outlet. And that is like the true love of your life. Like, and that is God energy, like actually. And I think you might work through forgiveness and self-forgiveness. So that's the value in your creative project, is you're working through forgiveness and self-forgiveness. You're learning how to do that when you mess up. Like if you were drawing a picture and then like you did like one kind of weird line out to the side and you're like, oh, I messed up the whole thing. And then like maybe at first you get so mad and you're like, oh, I'm so stupid. And then like you throw it away. And maybe next time you don't do that. And then you're Bob Ross, like making happy little accidents. And now it's not even a mistake that you're going to erase. It's like, oh, how can I incorporate that in? And like, just notice how your energy and the way that you interact within your own brain and within life changes because you love your craft. Let the love of your craft. Like, I just love drawing. So I might not be the best in my field, but I guarantee that I'm a die real. When I grow up, NF has just sponsored this entire reading because I think I channeled a song of his with every single pile. When I grow up, NF. Oh yeah, he's like, let me tell you my ridiculous dreams. I want to rap. And he's like, you don't got to be a mathematician to know that the odds aren't really rooting for me. And he talks about it. So like there's one verse in that song where he's like talking to his friends and he's like, let me spit a verse at you. And his friends are like, no. And he keeps doing that until he tricks them and stuff. I don't know. But he just loved it. He just loved it. And he didn't care if anybody got it. He knew that there was a huge chance that he wasn't going to make it, but it didn't stop him because he loves to rap, you know? And he's like, I just want to play a couple shows. I just want to do this because I want to rap, you know? And I think they're comparing that in my mind to somebody who, again, it's like, well, I want to be a rapper for the prestige, you know? Or it's like everybody wants to be the MVP football player. But you know how you get to be the MVP football player is practice. And you know how you practice and you stay consistent with practice. There's a lot of different avenues, but one is love. You don't need a drill sergeant over you every morning like blowing the whistle. One of it is love. Just actually loving what it is that you do. You find like that is fulfilling enough. And I think that might be even like a precursor to like a relationship, or again, just that it might be the truest love of your life, whatever this is that you build. And honestly, it might surprise you that it even builds into something that you share with other people at all. Yeah. And stay open-minded. Like, I just feel like these are all the things that you're going to learn in like a creative process. It's like, just stay open-minded, follow it wherever it goes, and pay attention to how others make you feel. Because also like, if you feel embarrassed to like show your creative project to somebody, I mean, yeah, that could just be that you're in your own head and maybe they'll be totally fine with it and loving and accepting you're just overly critical. But I mean, if people do like make fun of you or something, like maybe those aren't the kind of people that you want to be around. Or like you can tell a lot from people's reactions. So you shouldn't shy away from that process either, but just, and also it can be like valuable. So if somebody you respect them at their craft and they say, well, actually maybe try this, then maybe don't try not to get your ego bound up in it. Cause that's another thing. It's like getting the ego out of the way of self-trust as well. That ego consciousness of the details and making all the, everything's got to be perfect and I've got to be able to monetize this and I've got to, maybe you don't. Yeah, you're always learning and growing, and just be in that process of always learning and growing. Fall in love with life, follow your curiosity. And also like, especially at the beginning, don't feel like, oh, well, I want to be looked at as a songwriter, so I'm going to do songwriting. Try songwriting. And if it wasn't like, if you don't love it the way that you thought that you would, try something else. Like fall in love with that creative process. And you might want to read The Artist's Way. That might be a good book for this group to read. Or just listen to artists talk about their passion and stuff and just go looking for yours, and maybe the journey is like your passion at first before you find it, and just allow things to arise organically in your space. Because I feel like there is a path here, and it's like doing it this one time fully with this one thing, this creative thing. This is going to be, you're going to learn things that you can apply to other areas of your life, and previous incarnations, to be honest, as well. So yeah, I loved ball just to play. Yeah, I love that. I did karaoke for the first time. It felt like that. Fear of being seen. That's exactly it, Damien. Fear of being seen. And I think another part of this is like going from start to finish. I think part of why this would be so helpful is because what you create kind of takes on a life of its own. It's like, it's not you. So when you create it, it does kind of create that distance and allowing something here to be seen and allowing all the feelings to come up. But then it's like not necessarily you. You still have that kind of like distance there. I think that's going to be very beneficial for you as well. Yeah, the fear of being seen, for sure. Oh my gosh, yes. And just like confronting that and dealing with the lower chakras as well, like building up that confidence. And there's a path here. Like I'm very clearly seeing it. This is a spiritual path. And this is also the spiritual path. This is not the spiritual path of like wearing white and void, which is a legitimate spiritual path that a lot of people go down. Of like they strip themselves of all personality and stuff, which again, it's like some people need that. That's their like pathway to God. That's what makes life so beautiful, right? And then they go sit in a cave, which is about kind of reducing stimuli and everything. That's not this group's path. Your path to God is kind of this feminine path, and I'm seeing swaris and like cultures, I'm getting goosebumps again, like cultures that are vibrant and feminine, and like, I don't know, to me that's what the heart of the Vedas is. That it's story, it's colors, it's food, it's smells. It's so dimensional with like all of the senses. And before they were colonized over there, like in India, they actually had very healthy attitudes towards sex, and like their statues would have like these big old boobies on them, and they just value that kind of like feminine dance, like expression kind of thing. Like that's what life was all about. And I feel like this group is kind of going down this path where it's like, what is my dance? What is my rhythm? What do I love? And playing around with your expression as well. Like your clothes and your makeup and your smell and your music. And notice how other people make you feel. If other people don't hold space for that, those might be shit people. Yeah. Nice. All right. Well, I think that's what I have. I'm just going to get this last one. Positive self-talk and be optimistic. I love that. I love that. I just flashed back to one time I had this horrible coach for softball. He was just horrible. And we lost a game, and we had a long bus ride there, and then we had a long bus ride back. So we lost, and, you know, you're obligated to be sad for a while, which I never understood. But because honestly, I think it's extremely unhealthy to put your entire self and your mood and your identity into a game. Like, you are an adult and you're a coach and you're a teacher. So you should be teaching us how to be resilient and how to learn from our mistakes, certainly. And it is okay to want to win and everything, but it's like, why can't you be teaching us like how to be resilient and how to pick ourselves up? And, you know, like, we're teens. Like, why can't... So anyways, like, we were all kind of laughing and giggling and making jokes and talking about our weekend and stuff like girls do, teenage girls especially, like on the bus, like on the way home, and he yelled at us and was like, you should be sad and, you know, whatever. And I was just like, this is so crazy. Imagine like people being resilient, because we were quiet for a good long while. And then like we were resilient and we weren't going to waste a 45-minute bus ride where we were all around our friends in silence. Like, I'm sorry, but my identity is so much more than playing softball. So much more. I really give very little fucks about it. Like, I like being good at stuff. I like hanging out with my friends, but let's put it in its place, shall we? You know? So it could also be that. Kate, thank you so much for the super chat. Yay for creative expression. Yes. I've been in a drought when it comes to sharing, but I'm realizing how purposeful this period has been. Yeah. Yeah, you should be sad. That's what I thought. There were other adults around too, but I've thought about that for so long. But yeah. And also potentially for this group, getting around other people doing like their creative thing, like going to an art fair, going to an arts and crafts fair, getting your face painted when you go to the Ren Fair or something, you know? Okay. That was that. I so appreciate this group for giving me strength to get up here after half a century. Nice. I love it. Okay. A little more ginger ale, and then we'll do the general message. Okay. So, set that down. I'm pretty sure his name was Gary. Christy, I don't remember. I'm pretty sure. Or was it? No, it wasn't. It kind of threw me. Oh, no, it wasn't. I think it was John. I don't know why I was, like, confusing that. Okay. That just, like, threw me for a loop. I was like, wait a second. Like, how did you know? Okay, moving on. Messages. Okay, love messages. I hope the future will bring us together. For some of you, this is like union with God. I think a love message wants to come through. It's fine. I'm typically a love reader, and so I'll just see what this is, and then we'll move on. What do you want to say? Oh. Okay, this is actually very sweet. And I think that this comes through... Okay, there's a divinely guided connection here, because I just looked up and I saw my little Krishna thing. That there is a divinely guided connection, and I feel like it is moving a connection that was full of like hurt and betrayal, but for maybe all the reasons that we talked about in some of these piles, not being understood, not communicating openly, insecurity, not being able to find the path back to the self, that I think has left maybe you. I think there's somebody here acknowledging this, like in the ethers, that are on a soul level, that they know that they hurt you, because that's what I have here. I know I hurt you. I don't want to hurt you again. I know that we are spiritually connected, and I don't feel this energy pushing for anything, which is a change, because usually when I go for like the love messages one as a general message, which is usually after we've done one that's not so love focused, it feels like very pushy, or like I'm desperate to be heard. I'm desperate to be understood. I have to say this, like, this feels a lot more integrated and a lot more like, listen, I hope the future will bring us together. I'm noticing all the like darkness around this. I'm noticing like the heart energy, the transformation of the heart chakra. I think somebody finally got something, because I'm picturing this like scorpionic energy on the heart. Actually, like it's like somebody who is approaching their love relationships through the lower scorpionic energies, the scorpion that stings and is very vindictive, or the eagle that tries to fly above everything and see every like bit of danger, and it's very air oriented, weirdly enough, like in the water energy. And then it's the phoenix that knows how to throw itself into the fire in order to transform itself and purify itself and emerge stronger, better, and new. And I feel like this person's learning how to do this here, like with the heart space. I think they kind of get it now, or they are starting to get it now, and they know that they hurt you, and that's why the flame went out, and maybe you needed to protect your heart. I just heard the word ghost. So somebody here could have ghosted you, and it was because they didn't have the words, they didn't have the language to, or they didn't have the courage. All the things that we've mentioned in these piles, they didn't have that in order to be able to confront something. And they know that they kind of push that onto your plate, and they're working on it because they know that you are spiritually connected. I do feel actual divine energy, like God energy, wanting to bring this together. Some of you have been cutting your cords and everything like that, and I do think it's maybe had an effect. And because you've been praying for something. You could be praying for a relationship, and you weren't wrong that this person is your relationship, but it's like they had to heal, so this person, for some of you, might end up with this person. I'm kind of getting no, though, because this feels like a long-term process, and if you have like really cut ties, if you've put it to bed that you're not waiting on somebody, I think that's a healthy move for you. And I think like continue on in your journey, in whatever way is best for you to like handle your side of things and allow your life to unfold organically, and this person is kind of doing the same thing, but there's actually so much love and calmness and patience that's coming through. And that's actually much different of an energy than usually I pick up on. It's much more high strung. I hope our paths will cross again in the future. You're so beautiful inside and out. So this is like lovely. This is like nice, calm, peaceful, lovely energy. Where it hasn't been that way in the past, like chomping at the bit sort of energy. So that was just a little message that wanted to come through here for some of you. Okay, moving on to Spirit. What do you want to talk about? Oh my gosh. Okay, this is so funny. Yeah. Maybe this kind of ties into that last one, but Spirit is very heavily involved in your life right now, with this 5 of Cups energy, which to me, it's like representing grief. So you've probably gone through the stages of grief, and I am getting somebody here that felt very slighted by you, or maybe you felt slighted in the past. And because there was some kind of strategy here, maybe for a reunion or involving friends or something. I don't know if you did this or if somebody else did this, because I'm noticing like he's got this little heart there in his hand. It's like a little locket. And I think somebody here got like very angry. I don't know, but I'm hearing like the divine is in charge of this. Like none of this was arbitrary. You weren't being victimized. You needed to experience this. Like somebody's plan needed to fall over because they were approaching love with the wrong energy. And this is a divine connection, whatever has gone on here. I really feel that. I'm actually strongly feeling that. This is a divine soul connection that Spirit wants to bring together for like in whatever way, for whatever reason, because I'm noticing like the two sides here, this like kind of blending of like the opposite energies. Because I think, and we get this, to me, a divine connection is one where if you temper yourself out, and if you really are learning your lessons and confronting what you need to confront in yourself, then it's the people that are around you. That to me is like your soulmate energy. Again, platonic, romantic, whatever. And this person, or maybe this was you, or maybe this was them, was not approaching it in this way. So I think they had to go through some kind of process in vain that was very ego driven, and they were trying not to risk their heart. They were trying not to risk being vulnerable. They were trying not to risk anything. And so because of that, there wasn't any trust that was built, and there wasn't any like safety or something. And it really has connected maybe both of you to prayer energy and like to your intuition. But yeah, it's like, I just feel like this is very divinely guided here. But it was like through competition and strife and fighting, and it was through this whole drama that kind of like played out here, where then somebody here like, look, moved away and stabilized and got peaceful, but maybe had to spend quite a bit of time. And I think this is the path for both of you, but I think maybe you, like the female here, take this however it resonates, but one of you did it first, you know, to stabilize your own energy. And then like the next person has to realize that they can't win, that there's no getting around this blockage, that they can't be sneaky and like instantly change something. There is no like getting, and I feel like they're Spirit's making this person go through this like emotional turmoil process because they have to understand where it comes from. I think they're angry that they feel entitled that their plan should work, or why isn't it working here? Well, because this is a different kind of connection. You need to heal to have this connection. You can go have a karmic connection if you want to behave like that, because the karmic that you're going to be paired up with, you are also going to be karmic too, and then they're going to learn their lesson and leave, and then maybe another one will come in, they're going to learn their lesson and leave. And that process, that very painful process, has to play out before somebody can realize, I have not once thought that I need to change my approach. I haven't even considered that I need to change my very strategic, very cold, very logical, very underhand, very sneaky, very involving other people maybe kinds of approach, because I feel entitled to do that, because I think it's unfair that I should have to risk my heart and be vulnerable, when it's actually the key. It's the secret that's been there the whole time. So somebody's learning this in regards to you. And I feel like if you're this person that's kind of holding out, it's probably very painful, because again, you probably love this person. You probably have no idea why they're behaving the way that they're behaving. Yeah, and you've had to connect with your freak flag and your strength and like maybe get some distance. Yeah, and learn how to protect yourself. And this guy always looks so balanced to me. Like, yes, he's protecting himself, but in a very noble way. And he has the high ground. And I feel like you've had to maintain the high ground here. This is very like Miley Cyrus, 7 steps. I'm not coming back. You're taking 7 steps here. Why? Because this is what's best for both of us. You shouldn't ask me to regress in order to be with you. That's not love. That's selfishness. You should want to be better. Don't you want to be better? Like, don't you want to not sit in all that, you know, like, and yeah. So I feel like I'm hearing like day of judgment, but it's like, this is the purpose of the day of judgment, right? It's like to unearth these kinds of skeletons, these kind of unconscious rote things. Not for the purpose of self-flagellation and self-blame, but I feel like you're dealing with a person here who has just really, really aggressively enacted their machinations. I think it's caused a lot of harm to a lot of people, and they never once stopped to I'm hearing, just because you can, should you? And this person needs to ask themselves that question, but they kind of have to care about other people. But I think they were so blinded by their own hurt in the situation, or by their own feelings of vulnerability, that it's that victim, rescuer, persecutor thing. So they felt victimized because they didn't get the response, which is entitlement, because you're not entitled to anything from other people. But they felt victimized because other people didn't give them what they wanted. So then that was an excuse for them to become a persecutor, to be underhand, to be sneaky, to not have to look at themselves. And they just keep focusing on like the things. So they have to learn how to situate in their own energy. That's what they have to learn. And that's a beautiful lesson. Spirit's trying to help this person. I think this person may pray or something, and they're like, just give me what I want. And Spirit's like, I'm trying to. Will you please look? Will you please you have to hear, we're not going your way because your way sucks. We're not going your way because it's damaged. It's unhealed. If you go that way and you build on these faulty structures, if you don't have healthy relationship skills, I can get you the relationship is going to fall apart because this person is healed. Or this is like your divine partner or something here. This relationship is going to require you to function. And I'm glad you want to function for this person or for this relationship. That's excellent. But I think this person, even to Spirit, because this person, they kind of have an ego issue where they think they know better than Spirit. And so because of that, they haven't considered that they're in the position that they're in and that they're not having success. It's like insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. This person is doing that. And then when it happens the same way every time, they feel victimized. And instead of being able to stop and be like, why is this door closed? I keep praying for Spirit to show me the way. And I keep accusing Spirit of not showing me the way. When maybe the problem is in my own vision. Maybe I don't know how to see through the lens of wisdom. Maybe I don't know how to self-reflect. Have I ever considered that? This reminds me of the tarot, right? This is something that the tarot has deeply taught me, is that sometimes some people will lash out at me. I know sometimes I will feel frustrated with readers because I'm like, no, that's not it, but then if I choose another pile, it's exactly it. And the problem was my intuition in that moment. It wasn't theirs, but I couldn't stop for a second and think, maybe my intuition is off today, or maybe this is for somebody else, or maybe how am I looking at this? That's what I have control over. Why is the one thing I have control over the last thing I check? I'm so quick to pass judgment and just lash out at other people instead of saying, what is this? Why is this door closed to me? Why is this happening? I'm praying. So instead of just assuming, I feel like that's what this person is trying to learn, is that instead of just assuming that their prayers are going unanswered, assume that your prayers are being answered and that you have to figure out how. What is it? Where is the direction that you need to go? You need to consider that you're wrong. You need to consider that you've taken the wrong approach, that you're taking the wrong route. I grew up at a lake, and it's kind of windy roads, and there's this little bridge section. I mean, a little bridge. You might not even notice you went over one if you weren't from there. And sometimes they would have to cancel school whenever it rained because that one bridge would just overflow. And you didn't always know because it was in a different gate, than the one that I was in, but they knew. And then they were like, listen, you can't go down that road. We got to block that road off, today, because they can't get to certain kids. Well, that's spirit. Spirit's that road is blocked off if you go that way. I know that. You think that I've gone down that road a million times. Why can't I go through that road? Being stubborn, acting like you as a human being know all things. No, you don't. This is humility. No, you don't. You want to pray to divine sources, you have to be willing to listen to them or learn how to listen to them. Gemini, this is a language thing. This is learning how to speak the language of spirit. Because some people think that just because they talk to God that they just run that relationship, which again is teaching you about relationship, but through God. God's relating to you, and you have to learn how to hear God. Well, it's the same thing with your partner. So if you can do this successfully, then you can actually build the road to where you want to go and be able to maintain it. This person doesn't see through those lenses. They can't see through the lens of wisdom that perhaps there are things that they have not accounted for, that spirit has accounted for, and spirit's not just being an ass, This person jumps to conclusions. They're kind of chomping at the bit, but this desperation and it comes from a place of lack and insecurity, and they're in so much pain and they want relief so bad that it's they feel like they just have to jump right towards something, Yeah. Michelle says, unfortunately, some only learn the hard way. And I'm some. I definitely have to learn lessons the hard way sometimes, because there are some arenas in life that really make sense to me. And there are other arenas, I'm very bad spatially for whatever reason. I'm getting much, much better, but it doesn't always make sense to me. And, so I have to learn the hard way with a lot of stuff. My husband's very good spatially, and it kills him on the inside sometimes to watch me, do you know how many times this man is Jessica, banging on it is not a method, stop. With the prayer wheel, he's stop. Gently put it on there. But to me, it's I feel so out of my depth that I'm just if I can't smash this on, then I'm going to cry and go find Alex, and leave this for later. I'm just going to give up on it. There's certain things. And I feel this person, relationships and cooperation and being receptive and considering other people is just not this person's strong suit. And they kind of don't feel like it should be their strong suit. They see no value in it, except to maybe manipulate to get what they want. And this person, it's kind of that childish mentality, and we all sort of have this before the spiritual journey. And a lot of us come to the spiritual journey because of manifestation, or we want to get what we want. Well, that's a very low level of consciousness that you will be breaking out of if you are going to go on the spiritual journey. You have to. That's it's elementary. It's an elementary level of consciousness. That's not to say there's nothing wrong with it. If you're in elementary school, an elementary level of consciousness is perfectly fine. If you're early in the journey, it's perfectly fine. If you're 45, that's different. It's putting things in context. Okay, anything else? We'll wrap this up. Yeah, just resting. Oh, okay. I'm hearing that quote that's do without doing and everything gets done. Some of you might want to look into Zen, but yeah, the doing without doing and everything gets done. Because somebody here is feeling very defensive, called out, burdened, because personal responsibilities is all overwhelming. What do you mean I have to take personal responsibility? I could just blame you and then get around it. I can find a way to blame you is what I'm hearing. I can find a way to justify my actions. I'm very good at that. But it's reconnecting in a childhood space. That's Okay, so if this is you, if you are the person that's like feeling this like way, think about childhood. Don't think about cooperation like the way that I'm saying it. Oh, two adults cooperating. Think about building a fort with another kid and like that kind of cooperation. Think about that. Yeah, because you have so much anxiety about like making this giant switch because you feel like you've built so much over here, but it's like just be a child. Like connect with that healthy inner child. I feel like you have to break your own heart here because I think acknowledging this, you're not actually as obstinate as you think you are. I think acknowledging that you've been in this energy, if this is you, is going to break your own heart. You have to grieve because I think you're going to realize that there's been some karmas playing out here in your relationships and that you took a very hard stance. And maybe I'm picturing somebody shove someone down on a playground when maybe you should have been listening to what they were trying to say. And maybe you feel very regretful and very remorseful. And that's a healthy part of this process. Okay. Some people like, I don't know, because I'm almost picturing like somebody who's having like an awakening experience all of a sudden realizes that they actually do have regrets and they actually do understand how they've made other people feel and they want to be different, but they kind of have to cope with the person that they've been and they'll dip one toe into like the shame experience and then they're like, that was enough. Like I can see why people say that shame is like toxic. Nope, you're avoiding an ego death. And you really do have to go into it. And it's the softer parts of I feel like this person's just not used to being soft. And probably it is because that got taken advantage of, or they just felt like if I don't have teeth and claws out all the time, that I'm going to get, somebody's going to come for my neck because I'm going to like give out signals that I'm weak. And yeah, some people are like that. But that's why we have different sectors of our life. But we don't approach love like it's war kind of thing, you know? Because then it just taints it. It's no longer is what it's not love. That changes the energy of love to begin with. So I feel like I just want to say if you are this person that's feeling very defensive and you're breaking your own heart and you feel very sad, that might feel like a very unnatural experience to you and it might feel wrong to go into that. And it might feel like, no, like because I'm feeling that it's wrong. It's not wrong. And you're healing and we're proud of you. And this is a paradox point where this is the true face of strength. Not bullying. It's not power. It's not domination. This is the true face of strength, and we're proud of you. And that's a hard thing to do, okay? And it's not always going to feel good. And that's okay. That's all right. So, that's what I have. That's what I have. And if that is you, and you feel very raw, the doing without doing thing, you might want to look into that, because it's like a Zen thing. I think it's like a Zen quote. You might want to look into Zen. Remember like Hyde and Jackie from that 70s show? Like, whatever. You know, like that kind of energy. I don't know. I feel like Zen would be good for you. Tai Chi, something. Learning how to like flow with the energies. Not to block energies of like, well, I refuse to feel shame. No, we all feel shame. But learning how to move with the energy. That's the goal. Learning how to dance with it. Learning what to do when it comes in. Like, but you have to soften. Yeah, this is a group that has to work on like, you know, like strength and flexibility in the body. This is a group that has a lot of strength, but true strength involves flexibility because the tree will bend in the wind, right? And that's part of why it's so strong and it can actually withstand certain things. So actually the irony is you got to build up your flexibility when it comes to a little give and a little go. And it does mean risking yourself. And it's strong. And that is strong. So it's part of reframing that. So anyways, there's a lot going on here. Love this. Makes my heart feel better. Yeah, strength feels good. Truth and reevaluating. So much wisdom in this reading. Love this. Jess and everyone in our group are great. Oh, thank you. Like illusion is real. You're talking about my friend. I really hope she's reflecting. She's very aggressive and closed off. Yeah. I think a lot of us know people like that because, and I actually like people like that. And it was like an honesty point for me when I had to realize why I like people like that so much. Like I do kind of like a stubborn person. And I think it's because I trust that they will hold a boundary. Like I've had to learn how to hold boundaries like my whole life. And I'm like way better about that now. But because I'm way better about that now, I have a different kind of person around me. And I really did used to gravitate towards bullies. I remember my mom saying to me in school, she was like, she sat me down and she was like, Jess, your friends are really mean to you. And I was like, what? And she was like, yeah, I think your friends are mean to you. And I was like, no, they're not. I was really just used to being talked to like trash because of what went on in my home environment. But yeah, I just thought that I was not supposed to have like a personality or boundaries or anything. And I was just always used to kind of going to the bulldog or just expecting the bulldog to hold the boundaries. But I do remember once, this was with one of my parents, and I didn't want to go to something on the weekend, and I just asked them to say no for me, that I couldn't go. And I overheard the phone conversation from the other room, and she was basically talking to my friend's dad like a dog. Like, I mean, he was the sweetest, most quietest man. And she was just like screaming at him, calling him all kinds of names. Like, what are you, stupid? Like, does the cat got your tongue or something? And I was just like horrified listening in the other room. I was like, how did this go so sideways? Because I didn't know. I was like, maybe he said something. I don't know. I just needed her to tell him that I was busy on the weekend and that I couldn't go. And that's when I kind of realized that if I'm going to outsource that, like the strength and the boundaries and saying the hard things, that I can't complain when somebody behaves like that on my behalf. If I don't want someone to behave like that on my behalf, and if I want to make sure that people are treated kindly and well whenever they have to be told no or like held a boundary to, then I need to be willing to do it myself, like up to my own standards. And that really taught me a lesson. But yeah, I do tend to like a lot of just alpha people and stuff, having them around me. But and part of that I think is as well is like me standing up to them and saying like what, my because also people who are truly alpha, like I'm talking more about women because I've been around like a lot of alpha women in my life. They aren't pissants about stuff. Like you really actually can say your opinion, and that's helped me a lot too. So power and balance. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Well, I'm going to go finish my double fisting coffee ginger ale combination that I want to be very clear about this. Do not recommend at all for any reason. Yeah. So as a reminder, we've got candles for sale for those of you who want them. Do we have any truth serum? We don't have any truth serum. Do we have fresh start? No. We don't have any fresh start, but we still have other candles because a lot of people have been liking that. We've got Hedge Witch, right?
No, actually,
okay, we're sold out of some candles still, but we still have other ones.
We have more on the way.
We have more on the way. Double fisting. We have plenty of the other everyday magic candles. If you are working with some kind of practice and you feel like you would like an intentional candle with some divination oils and blessings and spells and stuff enchanted over it, then we're your people. All right. Thank you guys so much for being here. Thank you so much for the lovely chatting, for the witchy vibes and community. Thank you so much for the super chats. For everybody that supports me over on Patreon, we do have a Patreon video coming out tomorrow. It is no contact. Why is there no contact plus messages? I already filmed that one. Pretty interesting one. And I think that's all I got. All right. Thanks for hanging out, guys. Bye.